Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike. Today's video is going to be my 2021 reading plans, as in my TBR for the year. Now I did this video last year, and as I mentioned in my video that went live last week, I'm not much of a planner when it comes to my reading, and I ended up making a list last year of which I read about half. And I kind of lost interest in the list I had created at the start of the year, about midway through the year. So for me, I've selected 10 books and book series for the new year that I would like to get to, but I'm not going to stick to it probably. I may read some of this, I may not read some of this, I'm not sure yet how this is going to play out. I just think it's good to talk about certain things that I would like to get to, but then if I actually get to it in the end, I'm not entirely sure yet. So before we get to the books I've selected for this year, I wanted to quickly review the list I made for 2020 and tell you which ones I did read and which ones I didn't. Like this year, there were a couple of book series on the list, and the first series was William Ritter's The Jackaby series, and this is one that I did end up reading and enjoying. It's a YA historical fiction book series that focuses on like magic, fantasy kind of things, but that are also like real. So there are really vampires and there are really fairies in this world, and it was very, very enjoyable indeed. So that series was an absolute win, and I read it at the start of the year. I also read all of the Sarah J. Maas A Court of Thorns and Roses series, apart from the shorter novella. I read all of the 3 main books from the series that I also enjoyed, but it was brainless entertainment for me. So for me, these books weren't like top of the list, you could say. They were easy, breezy, quite romantic books that just conveniently wrapped up all of the storylines. And everybody loves Rhysand, and I understand why everybody loves Rhysand, but I didn't love Rhysand as much as everybody else does. So for me, the story as a whole just didn't really come together. I still think I prefer the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. Let's just stick to that. Also on that list was Sabaa, Tahir, and Ember in the Ashes. Now I'm actually quite glad that I didn't end up reading it yet. It was definitely one where I was like, oh yeah, I believe I decided I wanted to read it this year. And then I just didn't pick it up. But I've just found out that the 4th and final book in that series has just been released at the end of 2020. So maybe I want to buy that 4th book first and then read it. So I'm not too fussed that I didn't read it. And I don't think, did I finish any other series apart from those 2? I don't think I did. So I wasn't really good with the series reading train, you could say. Then I did read Mary E. Pearson's The Kiss of Deception. This is the first book in a YA romance kind of series. It's fantasy. That first book was enjoyable enough, but I didn't fall in love enough with the characters to really want to continue the series. So it was okay. I enjoyed that first book, but I'm not inclined to read the rest. Then Neal Shusterman's Scythe was on this list, and this is one I completely forgot about. So this is definitely one, at some point I need to get round to it. Lots of people love that book, but I just forgot I put it on the list. And so I didn't get to it. Robin Hobb's The Assassin's Apprentice, which is the first book in one of her first series, and apparently the second series is the one that everybody loves. So you kind of need to read this first before you can do the other one. Yeah, didn't read it yet. I just need to know. I just know that I just need to commit and just do it at some point. But I think because I got a little, well, I wouldn't say fatigue, but sort of like a lot of fantasy that's hyped up on BookTube, I end up not really liking. So I think that that's one of the reasons where I was like, I've now read a couple of these things and I'm not feeling it. So I kind of, again, forgot about this too. So at some point in time, I'd like to read it, but right now it's not a priority. And then Blake Crouch's Dark Matter is one that I read towards the start of 2020, and I absolutely loved it. I think it was one of my first like full solid 5-star reads. I really liked it. So that was a really, really good success. So I'm happy I prioritized that. And then Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. Wow. Was that a bit of a fail? I thought I could read it before the Netflix movie would be announced, or released, I should say, not announced, like put out there. And now, of course, I haven't watched that movie yet because I have the book, I want to read the book. I'm just overcomplicating this. I should just read it because I read Jamaica Inn at the start of 2019 and I loved it. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to love this one too. I read the first 50 pages. It was actually quite enjoyable and quite an easy read. But why I didn't end up reading more of it, I don't know. It just wasn't the right book at the right time for me. Again, also this idea of like, ooh, I need to read something because the movie is coming out, or I need to read something because it's Halloween and I want something spooky. I don't read like that. So that's why, again, today's video, you need to take it with a bit of a grain of salt, because I might think like right now, like, oh, I need to get to this at some point, and then towards like halfway through the year, I might veer in a completely different direction. That's definitely what happened in 2020. And then I wanted to read Anne Bronte's The Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and I was gonna read it. I literally laid it out in one of my reading vlogs saying, I'm going to read this next, after I read Far From the Madding Crowd. And then I think it took me 3 months to read Far From the Madding Crowd, which once I sat down and read it, I read the second half of that book, or like the majority of that book, in like a single sitting. Like, it ended up being super enjoyable, but I just figured that Far From the Madding Crowd would be a great like alternative. It's still a classic, so I've read a classic in 2020, and yeah, I did really enjoy that book actually, for a classic, for how romance heavy it is. I mean, people were like mad at Twilight for having a love triangle, but I think Thomas Hardy must have invented the love triangle, or what, because wow, we have one woman, 3 suitors, and they all vie for her hand in like 19th century rural England. It's probably why I got stuck, because the first 120 pages were just all these men pining for her, and it never becomes really clear what makes her so special until the end of the book, I feel. So for me, the second half of the book was a lot more enjoyable than the first one. So it was definitely a little bit of the, well, I wouldn't say the culprit. It wasn't the culprit, but it definitely contributed to my very long reading slump over the summertime. And then finally, a book I did read was a book I wanted to reread in 2020, and that's A.M. Holmes's This Book Will Save Your Life. If you saw my top 10, 15 all-time favorite standalones, then you know that this is one of my all-time favorite books. It just had been a very long time since I had read it. I'm talking like more than a decade, and I keep recommending this book to people, and I'm like, I know what the plot is about because I tell so many people about it, but do I still remember why I enjoyed it? And then I reread it and I fell in love with it all over again. It's still snarky, it's still funny. It's described as a combination of Catch-22 and Catcher in the Rye on the back. So that kind of tells you a bit about what my reading tastes for sure. So yeah, those were the 10 books I had selected for 2020. Read 5 of them, didn't read the other 5. So shall we get started? What do I want to read for 2021? All bets are off, but I know I'll get to this one. The 5th season by N.K. Jemisin. It's still unread. I've been showing you this book to you in this is the 3rd video, I think. I showed it to you in my bookshelf tour. I showed it to you in my December wrap-up as the next book I want to read. The bookmark is still on the 1st page because I just haven't really taken the time to sit down and read. Towards the end of the year, I was really busy filming videos for my other channel, and I ended up doing a jigsaw puzzle between Christmas and New Year's. I know, how old am I, right? But I sound like my grandma. I sometimes feel like my grandma by now, but oh well. It was enjoyable. I really had a good time. And then I went back to work, and then I had a crazy busy week where I was barely home. And then I had to again leave during the next weekend to go to work again, because there's a little bit of travel involved now. So it's been a thing. So I hope that this weekend, the weekend around the time that this video goes live, I will have started it. I plan on featuring this in my next reading vlog, which is hopefully the next video you're going to be seeing. So I hope I can then tell you more about it. It seems to be like the spacing of the typeset seems to make this not such a big book, even though it is, let me see, over 450 pages long. So even though that's the case, it could very well be that it's quite a breezy read because of that. So I do want to get to this. This is going to be my first book of 2021. As I've mentioned, this is so hyped up that I'm very scared I won't like it as much as everybody else, which is why I haven't started it yet. It's this hurdle. Also because I haven't read anything in a month, I really feel like then it's more effort to get back into the swing of things. And I know this can go two ways. Either I don't like it as much, or I love it and I want to finish it in a day. Because that's another option. And I just haven't had the time and brain space to sit down and do something like that. So that will be book series number 1. Book series number 2, also very popular with lots of people I know in real life too. The Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. This is The Final Empire, which is the first book. This is so hyped up that again, I'm scared I won't like it. But yeah, it's time. I need to get some Brandon Sanderson in my life so I can also love, hopefully, and read the rest of his series. Then another book that if you've watched my channel for some time, you know I would like to read. So I thought I could just put it in this video and try to get to it ASAP. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke is one that I've had on my shelves for years. And it's a behemoth of a book. It's apparently a slow burner, over 1,000 pages. And I think this could very well be my next read. As I mentioned in my previous video, I tend to like books that are longer. It's just something about that time investment of really getting stuck in a book that I like. And this can definitely give me that. So I think I might like this. It's also blurred by Neal Gaiman, who is also featured in today's stack. So I think this is definitely going to be read. It may or may not happen in the next 2 months or so, because I'm so intrigued with this. Oh, I have one. No, that's not true. I've got more series for you, so let's tackle those first. Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I don't remember the name of this series, but a lot of people have been loving this trilogy. Red Sister, Grey Sister, and Holy Sister. It's about assassin nuns, and it's apparently really well done, even though people didn't like his next series all that much, and apparently he's now a bit controversial. But I bought this when everybody was raving about it. So I have these sitting on my shelf, and I still want to read it. It sounds like something I might enjoy. I'm not sure. This is definitely another series I want to get to. But if we're talking assassins, I mean, why? There was an assassin-related book on my list last year, and there's even more this year, because I definitely need to get to God's Grave and Dark Dawn from the Nevernight trilogy by Jay Kristoff. I read Nevernight, the first one, and absolutely loved that book. I think that at the time, either this one or maybe just the last one, at least the series had not been completed. I've now owned all 3 books for a while, and I'm like, right, 2021, I need to finish the series for sure. This is one of the reasons why I don't like to buy series if, you know, I know the next book is going to come out, like the last book in the series, because then, you know, you've read the first one and you forget about the other 2. If I can just keep going, like that's what I hope to be able to do with the Broken Earth trilogy for sure. Like if I love this one, maybe next month I'll read the next one, etc., etc. And if I truly love it, I'll probably want to read all 3 in one go. So that's it for series. Everything else I have for you here are standalone. So let me talk about a book that I now want to read based off of something I've read in 2021, and that's a classic. And it's A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is not my favorite author. I only ever attempted to read 1 or 2 of his books. I dislike both of them, and it has to do with the fact that he was writing mainly for magazines, and he would write one installment for a magazine like periodically, rather than it being one continuous story. So I feel that a Dickens story you kind of need to read in chunks like people would have done at the time, and then it becomes a lot more enjoyable. However, I was forced to read these things within a week for classes at university, and so for me, Dickens is like, no. However, I listened to an audiobook by Judith Flanders about how Victorians were very obsessed with murder, and she detailed a specific murder case in one of the chapters and said that, like, one thing the book does by Judith Flanders is that it links these murder cases to sort of like how they were picked up by newspapers, and then how they were also used in popular culture of the time. And apparently one of these murder cases was the inspiration for some of the stuff that's going on in this book by Charles Dickens, and that it's really sort of therefore a really good one. So I don't know, but it made me very, very intrigued to read A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. Has anybody read this? Please let me know what you think, because this is another one where I'm like, ooh, oh, it's not that many pages. 449, and as you can see, there's not a lot of text on one page. It's like not one of those super densely packed classics. So I'm not sure whether I'll get to this, but this would be the classic on the list. And like last year, I wanted to feature a reread, and I was like, what would I like to reread? And I'm not sure whether it's going to be this one. I'm not gonna lie. But I might choose something else, but I was going through my shelves. I was like, Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. I put this in my top 15 all-time favorite books because that's how much I love it. It's very sort of Alice in Wonderland inspired, and I remember really loving this and just racing through it. So I may have actually gone through it a bit too quickly the first time round, which is why I would like to read it again, so hopefully I can pick up on more of the whimsical just enjoyment that is a Neil Gaiman book. Like, that's why I like them. So yeah, this one, I already know what it's about. I know what it will do, but I think I will very much enjoy myself going back to this world for sure. And then the only book that is rolling from 2020 into 2021, can you take a guess? Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I was like, I still want to read that book. I know I still want to read this. I just don't know why I just didn't do it. I think it was just because, again, expectations, and I wasn't feeling this book. And then there were other books I wanted to prioritize, and I kept holding off reading those books because I was trying to read this and I didn't do it. And so for me, there's just the mental capacity that this took up wasn't great, but I'm pretty sure that if I read it, I'll love it because I loved my other Daphne du Maurier books so much, Jamaica Inn, that I know I love it. I just know I do. I just need to sit down and read it. However, I read that last book, Jamaica Inn, also more like this time of the year. I think I read it around like February when it was really like dark and dreary and gruesome. So maybe just my mood has just not been right for this kind of style of writing. So yeah, if I want to pick something more gothic-y up this year, I think this will be my pick. And then two books where I'm like, yeah, I bought these in the past year, I think, and I just need to get to them. And it's these two, The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller and Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. This is one that I picked up because I saw so many people talking about this in my real life. I didn't really see a lot of people on BookTube talking about this, but it's apparently, again, also quite dark. And then Madeline Miller is one of those books that everybody raves about. Very similar, I feel, even though these books and authors are nothing alike, I'm sure, but very similar to Taylor Jenkins Reid, who wrote Daisy Jones and the Six and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and both of those books I really enjoyed. So it could very well be that since everybody's raving about this so much, that I'm going to love this too. So yeah, these are two books I also would like to get to, and they are apparently quite easy reads. They're not that big. So these are definitely also going to go onto the list. These are two books that I think I can get to quite quickly. but don't pin me down on that. So that's it for this video today, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know in a comment down below what you would like to get to this year. I would love to know, and then I look forward to seeing you in my next video, which I will be hopefully uploading for you the next couple of days, next weekend. I'm not sure yet. With this channel, I try to just upload it whenever I can, rather than really sticking to like a schedule, you could say. So yeah, stay tuned for more. I definitely have plenty of ideas for this channel and what I would like to put up. So stay tuned for more, and then I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye!